Welcome to our Wednesday night service. My name is Paul. I'll be your host tonight. And more than anything, welcome. Welcome, 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 church family. So, what is the Wednesday night service? Reverend Jeff coined it as the Oasis. We kind of had that name hanging around, but he really liked it. So it's a place where we can be together as a community to be spiritually refreshed between Sundays. Reverend Jeff introduced our Wednesday night services in the satsang style, where we'd have a gifted speaker speak on a subject for about 20 minutes and then open it up for a discussion. And he intended our service on Wednesday night to be informal, intimate, and rich. So that's our intention for you to experience tonight. Our annual theme for the year is Timeless Wisdom, Evolutionary Vision. And our monthly theme, it's new for July, is Pulled by Vision. Pulled by Vision. We want to welcome anybody that's new joining us for the first time. We've met Marcus already, Marcus, so we're glad you're here with us. For anybody else that's joining us, everything is on the website nowadays in this digital world that we're living in. But if you'd like to stay further connected with us, there's on the home page, bottom left-hand corner, you can submit your email address and you'll get our weekly Village News newsletter. And that will tell you everything that's coming up in the week with all the digital links. And it's a great, handy one place to look at what's coming up for classes and events. Just know that while we're in this digital world, now that we've started the service, we're going to ask everybody to make sure their camera and their microphones are turned off, because that will improve the quality of the transmission. And we're delighted to have you all here tonight. So to open us up in prayer tonight, I'm going to ask Peggy Cotton to come forward and do that for us. Peggy, will you take care of the opening prayer for us?
I would be delighted. Thank you, Paul. Thank you very much. So, welcome everybody, and let's just first close your eyes if you like, and just really relax into yourself. Just know that there is only one God. There's one universal mind, one energy that permeates through all living things, through all of life. You are one with this energy, just like I am. It's the truth, the absolute truth. And it is from this truth that I speak my word. For I am aware of the divinity that is within you, just as it is within me. All people, all living things, we, as human beings, we have a mind that is commonly used in one way. We call it thought, but it's not just thought. It includes your emotions as well as your unconscious mental, emotional, reactive patterns. Emotions arises at the place where mind and the body meet. And it is the body's reaction to your mind, or you might say, a reflection of your mind in your body. Rest in that. Rest in that and know that your thoughts are so powerful. They guide and direct who you are and what you do. For it is from the divinity of your being that constitutes your doing. For when you do use your mind, you are flexing those innate, divine, creative muscles that move you between thought and stillness, between the mind and no mind, which is consciousness without thought. And this is the only way that thought Your thought and my thought has real power. This is the center from which peace lives and thrives. And this is the mind that you will use tonight to listen to the power of the spoken word that comes from the divinity of the human being, who is also a spiritual being, and there is no contradiction, there's no duality whatsoever. From this human being we call Zoe, a simple Z, a simple O, with such depth and research and such heart that he shares with you from his mind to yours, from the comfort level of peace and love and recognition of the oneness in us all. And so I'm grateful for Zoe and all that he brings tonight. And I'm grateful for all of you and all that you bring and all that you share. I'm grateful for all of this and oh, so much more, that I release it all into the law, knowing that the law always says a resounding yes. For we know that the manifestation is already underway for the highest good and the brightest good and the most divine good of each and every one of us on this call, this night, this now, and for all the nows yet to come. And so I close this prayer by saying, and so it is.
So it is.
And so it is. Thank you, Peggy, for that beautiful opening prayer. And as Peggy mentioned, Zoe Muro, one of our practitioners, is our speaker tonight. And he's titled his talk, Is Your Commitment Greater Than Your Resistance? Now, let me tell you a little bit about Zoe. Not only is he a licensed practitioner at our center, he's the vice president of the board of trustees. He's also volunteer coordinator and membership coordinator. He leads the monthly CALM, Compassionate Attention to Loss Ministry group, and he also leads a Thursday night small group discussion. He's a very busy guy, and now he's speaking for us tonight on Wednesday night. So with that in mind, I turn it over to you, Zoe, and welcome you, and know that all is well.
Thank you, Paul. And thank you, Peggy, for that wonderful prayer. I was so relaxed. It was like, oh, I have to speak now? Oh, okay. Well, good evening, folks, and welcome to the Oakland Center's Midweek Oasis. Our topic today is, as Paul noted, is your commitment greater than your resistance? I've got to say, there was a great temptation to say, well, all right, I found there to be a great temptation to say, of course it's greater, duh. But being realistic about this, it's actually obvious to me that at least at times, my answer would be a whispered no, which of course now thunders through my head as I admit it. This honesty thing, it's really a burden sometimes, you know? But I want to put the topic of our talk tonight, of commitment, into perspective of timeless wisdom and evolutionary vision. Our focus throughout this year across all of the centers for spiritual living. We've spoken about how pain pushes until vision pulls. It's worth it to take some time to talk about pain for a moment. Pain might very well be the most common reason why people address conditions they would otherwise ignore. I've been an athlete for years, and as a trail runner, for example, there have been some scrapes and bruises and a fall or two, but like most runners, I resolutely ignore the pain and just push on. Well, it wasn't until I noticed that I couldn't relieve the pain in my knee that I finally went to the doctor, got an X-ray, an MRI, found the torn meniscus, severe loss of cartilage, which resulted in not one, but two surgeries, and my new bionic knee. Really, it makes that same sound as the $6 million man when I walk. It's great. Now, I'd be willing to bet that many of you listening to this have had pains you've put up with or tried to ignore until there was no denying it was affecting you too much to just carry on. Of course, maybe you just know someone else who did that because you personally would never do that. Sure, I'll buy that one. There are other types of pain. There's emotional pain, for example, which might very well push us to seek counseling or prayer or both. Without a doubt, pain can be a catalyst for change, but it only carries one so far. Think of pain as a fire starter, like kindling or magnesium. They burn hot, they burn fast, but they don't last. What is needed to maintain that heat and light is a more sustained fuel, something that can endure. In fact, the thing about pain is, as soon as it subsides or we become accustomed to it, it loses its drive and we can easily fall back into a sense of complacency. But being good metaphysicians, good religious scientists, we know that there is more to our living our best lives than just moving away from pain. We know that identifying what we don't want is not enough in and of itself. This is where visioning comes in. As we said earlier, pain pushes, but vision pulls. Now, I've been visioning both for myself and with my clients for years. I'm curious to know how many of you have done visioning. Just raise your hand or say so in the chat. Okay, see Joan has, and Peter, Alice, TC. Okay, so a number of you, Christine. Yeah, so it's something that is a fairly common practice. If you are not familiar with it, by the way, by all means, learn more about it. It's spectacular. By the way, I should point out that I'm working with two different screens. So if it looks like I'm kind of wandering off someplace, it's because I'm looking at my second screen. Now, there are many different forms and methods for visioning, each with its own benefits. But for now, I want to just very briefly mention the essence of a method that Reverend Dr. Michael Beckwith uses in his visioning process. It starts not with the focus on what you want to achieve and then using visioning to define how you'll achieve it. No, it starts with questioning, with listening. Peter, would you please bring up the first slide? It uses questions like this. What is the highest vision for my life? That is, what is it that wants to emerge? What qualities must I cultivate to enable that vision? What must I let go of to bring this vision fully into being? What strengths, capacities, and talents do I already possess to make this vision a reality? Clearly, this goes far beyond simply setting a goal for yourself and doing your best to achieve it. It creates a context and a framework for success. Thank you, Peter. So, as a result of visioning, we have a sense of what it is we want to see, what we want to be, what we want to do. And we can make a commitment to that. Of course, there are many other ways we can make a commitment, not just as a result of visioning. You know, come to think of it, before we go any further, I want to explore a bit more just what a commitment is. So first, I'll go to the dictionary. Simple definitions. Commitment is an agreement or a pledge to do something in the future. or it's an adherence to something to which one is bound by a pledge or duty. I think perhaps considering the breakfast scenario featuring a chicken and a pig would be appropriate here. Peter, would you bring up the next slide, please? Yes, commitment. The chicken was involved. The pig was committed. Thank you, Peter. But what does commitment mean to you? So put some ideas into the chat or raise your hand. This is the interactive part. It would be terrible if I actually had to call on somebody, wouldn't it? All right, if I have to, I will. Hey, Paul.
Hi, so commitment.
Oh,
Somebody's trying to talk.
All the mics are closed down.
Okay, so commitment to me is dedication to a cause or an action to carry out.
I don't know where that sound is coming from, Paul.
I do not know either, but I'm committed to work. I'm committed to work through it.
Yes.
The other noise is my kitty. He's sneezing. Oh, bless us all. Also, I noticed that Marcus said follow through down in the chat.
yes.
And but
And Peter said following
the-
through
the-
with an intention or goal.
right, dedication is the word that I put with commitment.
Anyone else want to share? Okay, maybe there's more resistance than commitment. Okay, let's move on. So, here we go. Joan says, well, Peggy said that it's attachment. Joan says, when I'm committed, my heart is fully there. Got it. Thank you. For me personally, when I think of commitment, it's a conscious decision with an intent to follow through to some desired state or outcome that really fits in with my passion, with my reason for being. So it's more than simply promising something. It's more than saying that, yeah, this is something I ought to take care of. It goes much deeper than that for me. So let's talk about a really big question. Let's say you've established your vision. You've understood the qualities and talents and resources, all of that. But what happens after the visioning session? After you've left the class or the workshop or finished the book, you've returned to your daily routine and your life with all its interruptions and distractions and conditions and circumstances. Have you ever found yourself just staring at your vision board or your vision statement or whatever materials you've written in which you've stated your commitment and wondered where things went sideways? In my practice as a religious science practitioner and as a transformational coach, I've seen that no matter how grand the vision, no matter how noble the cause, progress towards achieving that vision can definitely wane and even go into a place of complete inertia. Let's say I've decided that in order to get from point A to point B, I need a vehicle that's capable of moving farther, faster, and for longer than I could on foot. So I create a vehicle. Has a strong engine. It can move over a variety of terrains. It can get me where I want to go. Peter, could you put up the next slide, please? So maybe it's something like this. I mean, this is my commitment. It's ready to take anything on. But over time, it starts to look a little bit more like our next slide, Peter. There is this problem where you find that your commitment might be wavering. And it's possible that what you're experiencing is the opposing forces of commitment and resistance. Each is powerful, each wanting to be in the driver's seat. And net result, especially with this magnificent vehicle, is you go nowhere. Thank you, Peter. Now, based on your own ideas of what a commitment is, it might seem to you that it's really straightforward to understand the forces at work with commitment. But I want to explore that for a bit. Why would you commit to something? Right? Once again, I'll ask you to put something into the chat or raise your hand. Why do you commit to something?
Peter?
So as a co-runner, I find that when I make goals for myself, and primarily when I sign up for an actual run, then those times when I have resistance to getting up and going out and running, that goal reminds me. So I have reminders, I have goals, I have things that help keep me motivated.
Okay. So why would you commit to running, Peter?
I was committed to running because I found that it helped clear my head. It helped me live a more balanced life. It was something that helped me emotionally. Got me through a divorce. At least that was one of the things that got me through it. And so I kept doing it. Yeah.
Thank you, Peter.
Yeah.
Who else? Why do you commit?
Hi, I'm Lula, and I
Hi, Lula.
I have committed to exercising and more nutritious eating because of health reasons. And I want to maintain a certain quality of life as I age.
Very definitely admirable goals. Who else?
Joan? Joan, I see you have something in the chat.
Joan says,
Oh, yeah.
go ahead, you can read it.
Oh, well, it's something that has meaning and value. I gain from it and I can give to it. It's like a complete circle.
Thank you, Joan.
Yeah.
TC?
Yeah, I'm just thinking that all of my commitments have come because I thought my life would be better if I made a change.
Thank you, TC.
I've been making a lot of changes lately, and so, but that's the common thread. It's like my life will get better down the road if I do this now. So, or sometimes it's better now if I do this now.
All right, anyone else?
Freya? Freya has a message in the chat. Do you want to speak, Freya?
I see.
There you are.
What, say the question again, Joe.
Why do you commit to something? Why do you make a commitment?
Because it feels very important, either for my own healing or the earth. And sometimes the commitment just comes from this deep place where I cannot keep myself from being committed to it. It just comes from, I feel like it really comes from my essence or soul or something very deep.
Mhm. Great, thank you. So, excellent reasons. And I would think that the idea of being able to sustain that commitment would be pretty high. And yet resistance does come in. So as I noted earlier, I certainly don't like to admit to resisting something to which I've committed myself. But failure to be aware of and failure to acknowledge resistance can actually be an insurmountable obstacle to adhering to one's commitment. And then it becomes very easy to berate oneself for failing to follow through. Which means it's absolutely no wonder at all that Ernest Holmes said, the language of resistance is pain. And resistance is the offspring of fear and ignorance. So, how does one recognize resistance? Sometimes your inability to adhere to the commitment is actually your first clue. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying anytime you don't adhere to your commitment that you're resisting. There could be any number of legitimate reasons that are truly beyond your control. But putting that aside for a moment, consider some phrases that often accompany resistance. I can do this if only, or as long as, or as soon as I get, and then there's, I'm just not smart enough. I'm just not good enough. I'm just not enough. So if you think about times that you've allowed resistance to overshadow your commitment, there's a big question here. Were you held back by circumstances or conditions, or were you held back by beliefs? When I was a young boy, I bugged my mom for weeks to take me to the circus. Now, this was back in the bad old days when circuses had menageries filled with animals that we have since learned lived miserable existences. But at the time, it was a place that I thought would be a place of wonder. So I walked through around the cages and the roped off areas, and I was very surprised to see a full-grown elephant that was bound with just a thin rope. And even I knew that the elephant could easily break that. To my child's eyes, this great animal looked so sad. So standing there, for the longest time, trying to understand what I was seeing, finally just pestered one of the animal trainers until he had to respond to me. And he gave me this look. It was the look of a man who had answered the exact same question 1,000 times. But he did explain to me that when elephants are young, the rope is more than sufficient to keep them in one place. Since that's the way they grew up, they simply became conditioned to believe they could not escape. And so there they stood, hundreds of pounds of raw power held back by the flimsiest of restraints. See, that elephant wasn't bound by circumstance or condition. It was restrained by a belief, and a false belief at that. I know for myself, it's easy for me to fall prey to a false belief that's tied to an old story. It's usually the not good enough, not smart enough, not enough litany. For years, I've held on to many of the stories that my parents told me through my early days, but especially the story that I was a slow learner. And that flimsy rope was the source of my resistance again and again, keeping me from committing to jobs, courses, opportunities, all of which I surely could have worked at and maybe even excelled. Happy to say I've since thrown that belief out. And while I don't necessarily get everything right off the bat, then Paul or Peggy can attest to that. I actually do learn pretty quickly now that I understand more about how I learn. Another way that resistance can eat away at commitment is through the application of facts. And I really do mean facts, not simply something that someone presumed to be factual. My favorite example of this is the 4-minute mile. Peter, you'll appreciate this one. It was a fact that no human being had ever run a sub 4-minute mile. And that fact was enough to keep many athletes from believing it was even possible. The truth, however, the truth was that no one had yet run a sub 4-minute mile. And in 1954, Rogers Bannister set a 3:59.4 mile record. Over 1,400 runners have since beaten that time, with the current record holder, Hikam El Jarouj, running a 3:43.13 mile, some 65 years later. So I have to apologize for geeking out on stats like that, but I just love that story. So my next question to you is this: where is it in your commitments that you face resistance? Once again, hit the chat or raise your hand.
So I think for me, when I hit resistance is like, there's that initial euphoria of like, yeah, I made a commitment, I'm going to do this. And then all of my fear comes up and it becomes hard, you know, and it like, that's when, for me personally, I've had to learn to reach out for support. Doing it by myself, like I'm not very good at following through if it's just me. But if I have accountability, if I have this part of community, if I have people going, oh yeah, thank you for holding, that helps me through the resistance.
Thank you, Christine. Who else? Oh, you're so shy, folks.
This is Danielle, and I feel the same. Fear is definitely one that will hold me back from my commitments, and old beliefs. And it really is about shedding those old beliefs and those old stories. But when I really commit to something, I was with what Joan said, I usually commit because my heart is fully there and I truly believe that I will benefit or somebody else will benefit from it. But the thing that has stopped me from a commitment in the past has been definitely fear and an old belief that I've had to learn to work through and to shed. So thank you.
Thank you, Danielle. Anyone else want to share?
Yeah, hi, this is Lula. I think fear is my number. Fear or something that I am not comfortable doing, and at the time not willing to stretch. And when I do commit to stretch, it is not always easy, but I like learning something new. And then sometime I don't know, this is a form of well, it sometimes it interferes with commitment. I get, how you say, I get off track. Uh, the commitment grows instead of sticking to the one that I had. I don't know if this is a way of not really committing. And I keep having to bring myself back to the original commitment.
I understand. I understand. Yeah, so you take on one thing and then that somehow gathers something else and that gathers something else. Back in my corporate days, we used to call that scope creep.
Yes, 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 yes.
Thank you, Lula.
You know, you're making me think about this subject even more deeply, and I really appreciate it. So sometimes I think what happens for me is that I'm head over heels committed about something, and I dive right in, even though I have a tendency to be initially okay with not knowing all the pieces. I'm just going to dive right in. I figure out that I'll figure it out. And then I get in so deep and I'm like, oh, uh-oh. I don't know how to do 50% of this, of what I've said I was going to do. And then something happens that I have to make a decision about. So I have to recommit. I have to recommit. And that sometimes takes me a time to just sit with it, talk with a friend, read something, do whatever it is that I'm called to do to get me to, but mostly it's the quiet time. And then if that's a day or an hour or whatever it takes, and then I'm usually ready to come back to it. But I recognize that there is that process that I engage in having to do with refreshing my commitment, my pledge to myself. It's a very interesting process. Thank you, Zoe.
Thank you, Peggy. Eileen?
Well, and I'm not sure this answers the question, but a thought occurred to me while I've been listening and thinking, and that is that I have different levels of commitment, and I tend to have very little resistance when I commit to doing something for somebody else, but I have more resistance when I commit to doing something for myself, which is this is one that I'm going to be pondering for a while, because it just kind of came to mind. It's really easy to commit to something for somebody else, and I often overcommit. So it's just something to think about.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, one of the things that I have always considered with any of the talks that I give or any of the talks that I hear is not so much what happens during that talk, but how it works me afterwards. So glad to hear that it's evoking some ideas. That's great. TC?
Yeah, I'm dealing with a lot of resistance right now. And I wanted to say something about the elephant story. It was true at one time. Like the 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 rope that held the elephant was absolutely strong enough to keep the elephant in place when the elephant was very young. And as it grew, it became the power of the rope changed, but not the understanding of the elephant. But it was true at one time. It's not like it came from nowhere. I guess that's a trigger for me. It's like, but for me, it's all stories. Stories from my childhood that people told me that either told me or showed me that it was dangerous to be seen and to be heard. And, just rewriting those stories into new tales that are not tethered to the trauma of my past. It's it's an ongoing effort, but it all comes down to the stories we tell ourselves, in my experience.
Thank you, TC. And to that point, there's a Hebrew proverb that says, change takes but an instant. It's the resistance to change that can take a lifetime. David Brooks wrote in a book, The Second Mountain, that a commitment is falling in love with something and then building a structure of behavior around it for those moments when love falters. And therein lies your invitation. If you're finding yourself restrained by that rope of doubt, fear, or false beliefs, your path to freedom is through faith, love, and the certainty that loving spirit, God, Gaia, whatever name resonates with you, is guiding your way. And the wisdom, strength, and clarity you need is within you today and always. And please note, I'm not saying but, and there may well be more that's required to keep that commitment alive and well. In my practice, I certainly address spiritual truths and principles which guide and support us, which in fact are part of us. But I also work with people to look at their day-to-day activities and steps that they will use to make their vision a reality. So I work with people to understand how their vision can be supported by and realized by the goals they set. I don't want to get into detail about that. It would be way too much for this talk. But one of the keys to achieving your goals in support of your vision, especially in the light of waning energy and growing frustration, is the simple phrase, so that. And I heard some of you speak it tonight. Let's say an element of your vision is to embody the spirit of peace and harmony. So you set a goal to meditate 10 minutes every day. And it's going great until it isn't. You start to look at meditation as a task, something that you just have to check off your to-do list. It stops feeling like a tool and starts feeling like a burden. It's just not going to sustain you. But revisiting your vision and noting that you wanted to meditate so that you could refresh your spirit, or so that you could start or end your day in contemplation or in gratitude, or provide time for the divine mind to inform the human mind. Whatever it is that your so that happens to be, that allows you to maintain focus on what our good friend Lucian's uncle, Reverend Moata, once explained to me as IPOP, I-P-O-P, not to be confused with J-pop or K-pop. Those are Japanese and Korean popular music. Now I'm talking about living your life in principle and on purpose. By upholding our principles and defining and following our own unique purpose, we develop a clarity that serves as a compass, enabling us to follow a course to fulfillment and the ability to get back on that course if we go astray. And what a gift that is. As Helen Keller said, the only thing worse than being blind is having sight and no vision. Now, it's only fair to point out here that having an overarching vision to which we are committed or detailing specific goals to attain it are both subject to another obstacle. to single-mindedness. And I don't mean being focused. I'm talking about being overly focused on one aspect or the other. It's a sort of tunnel vision. Peter, could you bring up the next slide, please? So focusing solely on your vision and ignoring what you need to do to co-create the life that you desire is akin to having your head in the clouds. It's beautiful, it's lofty. But remember that God works for us and through us. On the other hand, focusing solely on the details, it's easy to lose perspective and become stuck in the minutia or lost in the weeds, if you will. So a balanced view and use of both might very well be a better harbinger of success. Thank you, Peter. With that in mind, another way to explore resistance is to go back to the visioning questions we spoke of before. So I'm just going to mention this one aspect of it. We don't need the slide for this one, Peter. The third question was, what must I let go of to bring this vision fully into being? Earlier, we spoke of not being held back by false beliefs, but there are many ways we can be held back by what we're holding on to. Speaking for myself, I know a big obstacle at times is my not letting go of a specific outcome. Bear in mind that this is actually one of the reasons we were visioning in the first place, because visioning is more than visualization of what you had in mind initially. It's about asking what wants to emerge, allowing the wisdom and guidance of spirit to inform us. One of my beloved prayer partners uses a phrase nearly each time we pray together, which has become a perfect affirmation for me: this or something better. It is impossible to want more goodness in your life than the Creator wants for you and has in fact equipped you to attain. So consider the ways that you bring your own focus miles from where it started, whether it's the idea of adding in things that are not important or things that seem more important than they were when you started, or being able to see for another, but not see for yourself. There's so many different things that can really just be obstacles of our own making. As much as we like to point to other people and other things and say, well, this is why I can't do this. I had every intention of doing it. And take a look at what you do for yourself or what you do to yourself. Based on the things that I've heard you say tonight, I'm of the opinion that this is more than a desire to affect change, whether it's in your own life or the life of others. And of course, when you change your life, you absolutely change the life of others. But what I'm hearing in the things that you've spoken about goes beyond desire, goes beyond determination. It's passion. It's passion. When we talk about improving our lives, doing what we can to live our lives as fully as possible, what a wonderful thing that is. It's been said that one person with passion is better than 40 people who are merely interested. Or putting it in terms of our chicken and pig committed versus involved breakfast. Hey, eggs are all well and good, but be the bacon. Be the bacon. Thank you.
Wow, church family. What did you think? Can you
Great
applaud?
talk,
Show your
Joe.
hands. Do you have something
Yay.
to say? You're getting a lot of claps and thumbs up, Zoe. Thank you, buddy, for making us think a little harder, a little more open, a little bit more expressively. Wow. I'm digesting it all, and I feel sorry for the pig, but I'm digesting it all. Thank you. I know you're out there. I hear you laughing. Yay. Oh, wow. Thanks again, Zoe. I'm going to do some announcements. I'm going to have Zoe come back and close us in prayer. A couple weeks ago, we did a program and gave people a lot of things to think about, and some folks contacted us and said, please, let's do some more of that. And so you really delivered tonight. So thank you so much on that. All right, Peter, you ready? We'll run through some announcements. Marcus, I know you're out there, first timer. I hope you've enjoyed yourself so far. We're getting ready to close. So I have a lot of information I'm going to share. First thing is this Sunday, July 11th, practitioner Lucian Baker. And we all love our Lucian from Wednesday, but Vision is calling him to the pulpit this Sunday. And he'll be speaking in our on Pulled by Vision, is your commitment greater than your resistance? We are meeting on Zoom this Sunday, and I'll have more to talk about that in a minute, but this Sunday, we are still in Zoom. Meditation is at 10 and service starts at 10:30. And then next Wednesday, July 14th, practitioner Elena Hutchison is continuing the theme of Pulled by Vision. Meditation at 6:30, service at 7. Now, that information I wanted to share with you is that July 11th is next Sunday, and it will be our last Zoom Sunday service. Starting the following Sunday, July 18th, we will be live streaming from the sanctuary. On July 18th and July 25th, these are going to be what we're calling soft openings, meaning only those working and supporting the physical service itself in the sanctuary will be able to attend in person. No audience per se, okay? The grand opening will be August 1st, and we will be wearing masks and practicing social distancing when indoors. Check the website for updated information. Now, our Wednesday services will continue in Zoom going forward. So if there's questions around this, when I get done with the announcements, reserve them, and we'll take a few seconds to digest that. But that's the reopening plan as I know it as of right now, from the Board of Trustees, as well as our compliance team, and from the ecclesiastical leadership team. On our next slide, you'll see that we're having writing as spiritual practice, and that will start next week. Please sign up now and be a part of this first post-pandemic in-person class. You'll be writing and learning in a socially distanced classroom setting. Join Reverend Catherine Sachs for a 6-week journey, writing as a spiritual practice. The class starts Tuesday, July 13th at 6:30. The cost is $125, and you can sign up on the current classes page of the website. Next, join Reverend Savannah Riker for an in-person and Zoom workshop. If I Were Brave is the title, and that will be on the second soft opening date of Sunday, July 25th from 12:30 to 3 o'clock, either in Zoom or in our social hall. The cost is $40 and pre-registration is necessary. As an added bonus, once you register for the in-person class, you will be able to attend the Sunday service in the sanctuary. So all you'll have to do is walk across the courtyard and go to the class afterwards. Let me repeat that. If you sign up for this class in person, you'll be able to come and sit in the sanctuary for the service and then go to the class right afterwards. So check our events page for details and how to register. Also, we had a very successful in-person gathering in the courtyard last Sunday, so it will continue. We will continue with the Sunday social. And practitioner Zoe Muro, who spoke so eloquently tonight, and villager Nikki Royce are hosting another one this coming Sunday for a gathering in the courtyard from 1:30 to 3:30. We'll be observing social distancing and all the health guidelines. But if you're anxious to meet and see each other, we'll be doing so after the Zoom service at 1:30 in the courtyard led by Zoe and Nikki. Please remember that Reverend Jeff's memorial service will be Saturday, September 4th at 11 a.m. We're asking that anybody intending to attend to please RSVP using the link on the events page or the link that appears in the village news when you receive it. This is to generally get an idea of how many folks will want to attend, and so we can keep you informed about the event. So please RSVP on those links. If you're interested in remembering Reverend Jeff by rafting on his favorite river, our own Janine Perry, along with Krista McAtee and Janet Dupre from Santa Rosa, have organized a memorial rafting trip on the American River for September 17th to 19th. This is not affiliated with our center. To find out more and reserve your spot, please contact Janet Dupre at 707-478-7300. We do have this listed on our events page, and her number also appears on that listing. Do you have a vision for what you would like the bookstore to be? As we begin to think about reopening, Linda Wyman would like to train an assistant. This person would share responsibility with her for ordering, keeping track of inventory, requests, and budget. While not required to be a cashier, this person must be willing and able to take on cashier responsibilities and troubleshoot problems in the bookstore. So if you're interested, you'll need to apply. So please contact Linda Wyman at bookstore@oaklandcsl.org. We are looking forward to hearing from you. And just as a side reminder, we have 3 in-person groups, both digitally and physically, that are meeting. We have our digital noontime spiritual journey, Monday through Friday at 12 noon, where we review the daily readings of Dr. Dan Morgan. Susan Brecker, another one of our licensed practitioner, is leading an in-person small group every Tuesday from 3 to 4. And our practitioner, Zoe, tonight, he leads an online small group on Thursdays at 6:30. Both of those groups explore the readings for the week and enjoy the connections the gatherings afford. So information for all these groups are on the events page. They've become quite popular and keep us well connected during this time, so I'd like to advertise them. But please refer to everything at www.oaklandcsl.org, our webpage. Everything is there. So with that in mind, we're going to move into our offering moment. And if you'll just hold that offering in your arms and to your heart, whether it's time, treasure, or talent, and repeat this giving affirmation. This gift I give is God in action. It does good work in the world and blesses creation. So how do we turn in that offering? You can make a donation on the website on the donate button with a credit card, or you can text it to the numbers shown there. That's also on the webpage, or you can mail in a donation or contact the office. And the phone number's on the website. So with that in mind, we're getting ready to close our service, but I want to open it up and ask, does anyone have any questions around the reopening plan. If you do raise your hand or ask me, turn on your camera real quick. If not, there's more to follow. You'll learn more on Sunday. There's information on the website and will be in the Village News. Okay, with that in mind, Zoe,
Danielle?
Peggy,
Danielle has her hand up.
Danielle, did you have a question about the opening?
No, it wasn't about the opening.
It's a leftover hand up.
It's a leftover hand up.
Excellent.
I took it down.
Okay, Lula, did you have a question? Are you okay? You're muted, so I'm assuming.
So leftover hands up.
Okay, all right, leftover hands. That's going to be the new phrase for you, so leftover hands, overcommitted. So we're going to have a closing prayer from Zoe before we leave. I want to thank everybody that joined us tonight. It's always delightful to see you guys and be in your presence. My greatest fear, Zoe, is that for my commitment to the Wednesday night service is my resistance is I'm afraid that I'll make a mistake and someone will think poorly of me. So I will work on that going forward. Thanks to you. You revealed that to me tonight. So thank you, sir.
Yes, I do think poorly of you.
That's why you call me every day with a list of things to discuss, Dorothy. Dorothy is my partner in crime. We do so much work together at church. It's a miracle we get along. But we're great. I love you, Miss Dorothy. Thank you. Oh,
I love you too, sweetheart.
I know you do.
So it was great, sweetie.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hey, Ms. Dorothy,
Thank you so much. It
would
was
you like to
awesome.
close us out? Dorothy, would you like to close us out?
Oh, I can. Absolutely.
All right.
So let us just take in a deep breath and just exhale as we recognize and know that there's only one of us here, right now. And we give thanks. We give great thanks for this magnificent talk that we heard today, that we are truly transformed and renewed by the words that were spoken by our practitioner, Zoe Muro. I am knowing that each and every one of us, we have grown in ways that we could not have possibly imagined tonight. We give thanks for this evening. We give thanks for each and every one of us on this call, knowing that we are spiritually renewed, that God is truly our source and our sufficiency in all things. So I give thanks for tonight. And as we open our hearts and our minds for the renewing of spirit, and especially giving love to those who need it. When we walk down the streets, we smile and say, thank you, God. Thank you, God, for this God being that you have created. So I give thanks for our beloved Zoe, who has given us the word today. I give thanks for Paul as he stands up every Wednesday to make this possible for each and every one of us. For Peggy, for Peter, thank you. Thank you, God, for each one of these God beings. So I, Dorothy, release this word into the law, knowing that we are grounded and surrounded in the love and the light of God. And together we say, and so it is.
And so it is.